And welcome to Detroit in Black and White Friday edition. I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I am in Phoenix. I forgot about the time, but here I am outside. I'm here for a hot second. Jim, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Vanessa Moss, Attorney Vanessa Moss. How you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing fine. I'm warm.
Okay, and Alan Langle, he's somewhere down south. He's not here today, but I tell you, I'm on Arizona time. I looked at 6:30, and it was 6:30, not 8:30. So
Oh,
I'm here for a hot second.
okay. All right. Well,
No question.
then you need to set it off. But you know what? Before you set
But I'm gonna tell you what the news is, and it's news here in Arizona. The weather, because the
yeah.
weather's acting crazy here. They usually don't get any rain,
Mhm.
and they got rain, and it's nice in 70s in the daytime.
Uh-huh.
At night, 30s and 40s. So they getting some cold weather, and everybody's looking at out east and Michigan, and it's crazy. 100 car pile up. Was that I-96?
I guess so. I don't know. I didn't watch the news today. I had to work today. I didn't even know the kids were I didn't even have school today until I was sitting in a hair salon and my hairdresser was like, "Well, you know the kids are home today." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because it's raining." I was like, "Oh, okay."
But I'm gonna tell you, when I was coming up, I was a safety patrol,
Me
and I
too.
was out in the cold weather. You know what? They never closed the schools where I
Mhm.
was, and it was freezing, and we was out there. I don't know what the temperatures was because I was in the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade when I was on a safety patrol, and we used to come after the bell rang, and they say, "All in, come on in," and we get hot chocolate and stuff when it's cold outside. Uh, I'm looking at this weather. I say I couldn't survive as a 8 or 9 year old. What's happening now? Those folks who say there's no climate change and all this other, they crazy little fuck.
Well, you know what, Adolf?
Because it is absolutely out of control.
You know what, Jim and Adolf? um, I was in the salon today getting my nails done, and the women were talking, and one of the ladies there, she's from Russia. She is a legal immigrant from Russia. She's now a United States citizen. And she said back home it was cold like this all the time. It was no big deal. And you know how, they would get up and go to school. And some of the other ladies that was in the salon, we talked about how when we were young, we went to school, we walked to school, we caught the bus to school. The snow would be almost as tall as you were. You did that. They did not shut down the schools because it was inclement weather. But as I pointed out to them, I said, well, the world is different. And they said that's true. But all of them feel like we are really making these kids out to be pansies as opposed to
I know. I don't think you got people freezing to death.
they were
But
I'm saying it in a nice way, but they was like they're
What do you
paying.
mean by that?
Well, they didn't have
listen,
wait a minute. We didn't have boots. I remember having boots where you put plastic in the like the little plastic in the bottom of the boots.
but I got one better than you, Vanessa. We
You
had to use coal. We had to use coal to keep warm.
oh
Coal in a furnace. Coal in a furnace, and that's what we had to do. So no, some of these kids, they got it bad. They don't have heat in their houses. They
I
don't have water. And yet, it's just as bad as it was when I was coming up. I was in Iceland several years ago, Reykjavik, and it was warmer there than it was in Detroit. So I'm gonna tell you, if you're telling me it's not global warming where icebergs are melting and all it's just crazy.
Yeah. You know what? Before we get more to conversation, we got some people on here.
Well,
So we're
I'm gonna let y'all. I'm gonna let y'all go. You know.
going to have dinner. We know you out having dinner with the missus. Tell
Yeah, I am.
my
You
friend
know, there's no question.
I say hello.
And I will. And to all the people in Detroit, keep warm. I'll be back next Saturday, so I'm gonna be suffering with the masses. Y'all take care.
Okay.
Good night,
Enjoy.
Ada. I'll cover those if you want, Vanessa. I'll cover
Yeah,
the.
you know what? Yeah, because Queen Bee is on here. She been gone, so make sure you give her a shout out.
She's the first person we need to talk. Well, she's going to be the last person we talk about because we're going to talk about her. Jill Sheridan, I hope it's a good evening for you too. We're doing okay. Dwayla, good evening to you. Thanks for your sending out your kind greetings. Mr. 1213, good evening. Edward Alt, we haven't seen Edward in a while. Good evening, Edward. Again, so much for global warming, Mr. 1213. Good evening to Karen C. I call her Karen C. Karen C. Winston. A good and cold evening. Thanks you for your greetings. We'll stop at Queen Bee. You know, it's funny. Queen Bee, your ears must have been burning because we were talking about you just before the show went on. Adolph brought you up, and that's just fascinating. That you must have been thinking about us while we're thinking about you. Welcome back to the show. I hope you're doing well. I hope school and everything's good. Mr. 12, go ahead.
Mr. Ghost of Adolph Mongo is with us. Look, his picture. He's haunting us. But go ahead, Jim.
I got rid of him. So I'm going to go on, Karen. We didn't have air conditioning either. We didn't have air conditioning in the schools. We had neighborhood schools. The children didn't have now children have to travel miles to go to school. You know, we have a neighborhood school where I live, and they closed it, right? It was one of the reasons I bought in this neighborhood. Good. Stay busy, Queen Bee, but don't forget your friends. Karen, my Adolph lived in a house with a coal-burning furnace. Karen, I think Adolph's gone, but hopefully you'll get to see that. And I want to start with this tonight, right?
Okay.
Alan's missing in action. Not really. He's taking a little break. Adolph is in the warm weather. And Teresa has a little medical issue that I want to talk about. So I need your guys' help tonight. I'm trying not only to participate, I'm trying to run behind the shows, the commercials, and all that. So if it's a disaster, it's on me tonight. But I could sure use, somebody coming on and visiting with us. And
absolutely. Hit that link that's up there in the corner. Queen Bee, we want to see your face. Mr. 1213, we want to see you. Dwayla, we want to see you. We want to hear you. All you have to do is use this camera. Use the camera on your phone. Put your phone up to the link, and you can join us in the studio. Jim will let you in. Mr. 1213, he commented on what we're talking about. He said we had neighborhood schools then. Now children have to travel miles to go to school. That is true, but we also have kids who travel miles to go to school in their parents' vehicles. I'm just saying. One of the ladies was talking today. She lives in a community, and she says that the parents drive the kids to the bus stop, which is a quarter of a mile from their condo, and the kids sit in the car with their parents until the bus pull up, and she think it's ridiculous. She's like, they can't walk. I mean, what is this? And my response is, yeah, things are different. We didn't have Ugg boots. We just had whatever boots we had. We didn't have the warm coats, the Marie Claire, the moose knuckles, and all the stuff that they wear now. I mean, we have things for the weather. We have warm coats, we have warm boots, hats, gloves, and those kind of things. And I find it very interesting. While you can say, yeah, things have changed. Well, when you look at the news, it was sure a lot of kids out on the ski slopes today here in Michigan.
Thanks, Queen Bee, for squeezing our show in tonight. We appreciate it. And it's good as Edward's talked about being back on board with the hottest show on these YouTube streets. Thank you, Edward. Jan, my friend Jan from Victory Gym. Good evening to Jan. It's climate change, not global warming.
Right.
Okay, we can call it whatever we want. It's freaking cold out there. A lot of small children's parents can't afford cars. And wherever you guys want to start today, wherever our guests want to start. So we talk about Queen Bee, and we talk about Edward, and we talk about people like Marlon, or like my music who we don't hear from in a few weeks.
Right.
And you all are our family. When we don't hear from you, we start thinking, what happened to Queen Bee? I hope she's okay. What happened? You don't like my music over there in Canada? Is he buried in his house? Or Marlon Holt, who's a Florida guy, but at the last we heard, Marlon was moving back to Ann Arbor, but I don't see Marlon. We haven't heard from Marlon.
Okay.
Right? So my point is, we care about you guys. You're important to us. When you disappear, we wonder where you are. So if there's something y'all want to talk about tonight, let's talk about it. I want to start with this poor young lady. Go ahead, Vanessa. You got something?
Go ahead. You want to start with this poor young lady?
I was going to bring up this poor young lady, that died out Mount Clemens.
Yeah.
Tragic, right?
Very tragic.
And we don't really know the story. I saw her family on TV. For those of you that haven't seen it, a guy went to pick up a dumpster in Mount Clemens, and this young lady, 52, 53, was behind the dumpster on the ground, deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And the family said there was some evidence of maybe some criminal activity. We don't know, or we don't know if it's a natural death yet. Nobody knows yet, but it goes to show you that, there's an autopsy pending, but, the news is carrying it as, capitalizing a little bit on this weather and saying, hey, it's the weather, she was unhoused. Mm-hmm. And her family's saying that's not exactly correct. We need to know. And unfortunately, sometimes the news just they want the 6:00 news story at the top of the hour, and we lose who these human beings are. We lose, the personal part of it all.
So
right?
What I find is interesting when you look at the news story, they said that she was unhoused, and they also said now they're looking at changing some policies with these shelters, because due to these policies in the shelter and a bus delay, she wasn't able to get to the shelter. Therefore, she was, denied access to the shelter. But here's the deal. We also talked about that in the salon today. Opening up shelters is great. It's phenomenal. But there's things that people really don't think about. Where you're talking about making sure the people are in from the cold, you're not just talking about them being warm. You want them to be safe, okay? You have families out here, you have children with their mothers that are staying in these places. So you want to make sure not only is it warm, but you want to make sure that it's safe. You have people that are out there. You mentioned something about maybe criminal activity. You have people out there that are unhoused that, has that criminal element. So do you want to be in a shelter with somebody and all you have your belongings, and they may take your belongings or whatever the case may be? But those are the things that we have to think about. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because a few weeks ago, there was a lady at Detroit Rescue Mission. I don't know if you saw the story. She and her kids were there, and she talked about how unsafe the shelter was, and the door on the bathroom was broken. And so, you want to feel safe being able to go into the bathroom. And because, this is what she says, or this is what the news portrayed, that because she spoke out about the unsafe conditions in the shelter, they kicked her out. Okay. So when we say that they have to change policy, that there's things that need to be done, we have to think about these other factors, because it may not necessarily be safe for someone to go to a shelter,
Yeah, that's true too. Hello, Tamika, Cynthia.
You have to talk about security. You have to talk about those kind of things. And you have to also think about, if you have a family, if you have little children, do you want them there with these other adults? And I hearken back to when the levees broke in New Orleans, and people had to go to that dome, and it was just not a good look. Oh,
There's
T,
T.
hey T, what's up?
Hey.
Before we
Hey,
move on, can I say hi to Tamika, Cynthia
yes.
Johnson, Ira Todd, Detroit PD legend, and I'm going to go to a break. I'm going to try and go to a break, so y'all stay with me. And
T, don't go nowhere.
I won't.
Tracy's out there. I don't know where Tracy is. I don't see you, Tracy. So I don't. You must be out there somewhere. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Back, Detroit Black and White, our Friday evenings edition. Listen, I want to tell everybody that has joined us this evening, thank you so much, because you could be doing something else, but you decided to watch the greatest show on these YouTube streets. You are watching, you know what your assignment is. Like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And tell all your friends about Detroit in Black and White. You can also join us like our guest this evening. Take that phone, use that QR code, and come on into the studio.
I wonder if we can get two on. I wonder if two people can come on this. I don't know if that works or not, but we want to talk to T tonight. So.
Okay, so what you want to talk about, T Brown?
I don't know. I was just really surprised that y'all were talking about this homeless lady, because initially when I first heard it, I didn't really think she was homeless. I thought maybe she was just somebody that died in the street, but I've been hearing that she genuinely was homeless. And, you know, I'm glad that now the focus is on homelessness. I'm part of the Michigan Homeless Policy Council at the state level. We're trying to get some things going. They rolled out the state action plan. Actually, there's an action plan, and people should go on the MSHDA site and take a look at it. There's an action plan set up for the state of Michigan, and next week I'll probably be filing an objection to it. I think it's empty. It looks like a wish. It doesn't really give accurate numbers. Wow. And the homeless, and again, I'm a person that just ended my tenure on the COC, the Continuum of Care here in Detroit. The homeless problem in Detroit is a crisis that needs attention. And just to be clear, it's a crisis everywhere, but it's particularly bad here in Detroit because when I'm talking to other executives, there's a Black girl in Lansing who's an executive director of a homeless shelter or like a homeless program. They were bickering because she makes $60,000. I said, they're mad because you make $60,000. They want to pay you more. She's like, no, they think I should actually make less. Oh. People need to take a look at these 990s here, because if you saw how much some of these executive directors of these nonprofits that are intended to help homeless people, you'd be outraged. They make more than Mike Duggan was making, and they make more than Gretchen Whitmer makes right now.
And they make $200,000 or $300,000, and the person that's doing the work is making $60,000.
And that's the worst part. The case managers, and especially the front end staff, who are the people serving food, the people you encounter when you first come in, those people make no money. When you look at the disparity between the lowest paid employee and the highest paid employee, it's outrageous. And then when you FOIA those documents from HUD that they submit for the grant, it's like, who's reviewing this? Because you look and you'll see that person at the lowest level might not have gotten a raise in 2 or 3 years. Meanwhile, the executive director has had a raise annually, and these are not small raises. Some of these raises are $5,000. Some of them are as much as $10,000 and $20,000.
T, did you see that story about Detroit Rescue Mission about 3 weeks ago? And they were talking about the person that's over the nonprofit, the Detroit Rescue Mission, and how it's saying basically the same thing that you're saying, how there needs to be oversight. You have all this money, and people like you, Jim, and all our people that are watching Detroit in Black and White, they give from their heart. They support these organizations, but it's top heavy. These people making all this money, and the people that are supposed to be serviced are not getting service. we're not just talking about, for me, I'm not just talking about from a safety standpoint. Some of these people need treatment, mental illness, and all those kinds. They need real services. And, it just seems to me that they missed the boat.
Yes, but here's the problem. The media here in Detroit doesn't pick up stuff. Back when Tatiana Williams' kids died, I was serving on the COC. I sent an email to HUD and requested an audit of Detroit Rescue Mission. I requested one for Detroit Rescue Mission and several other entities that I believed needed some attention. Before HUD could even respond, somebody FOIA'd the information that I had sent and requested to Dr. Chad Audie over at Detroit Rescue Mission. He sends me this sassy ass email in the middle of the night. It's like a Friday night at 9 o'clock. And I basically told him, I'm not reading all this shit. I don't want to hear it. It's the same thing every day. I do this. I know what things are supposed to look like. He goes on to tell me, you need to dig deeper and get your facts before making defamatory statements. Oh, well, I hadn't made any defamatory statements at that point, but since you want me to dig deeper, that's exactly what I'll do. As I was digging deeper, I found out this man does not have a PhD. They're running around calling him Dr. Chad Audie. He's writing books, selling them on Amazon under the guise of having a PhD, which he does not. And then the schools where he claims that he's gotten his PhD, Mitch Albom has written on the Say Yes, as far as his biography, that he got his PhDs before he was 27. Well, here's the problem. The school that he claims to have gotten the PhD from was closed by the FBI 2 years before he was supposedly graduating, which, I mean, this is all public information you can find on a computer. He's written these biographies claiming to have gone to LaSalle in Louisiana. And I don't know if y'all remember that school. It was shut down by the FBI because it was a diploma mill. I don't even think he went there. Then he went to another school. He claimed to have gone to a school called Apollos. He did go there. They gave him a doctorate in business management. That is not a PhD. And that school was shut down for accrediting issues. It was basically like that school in Farmington, where if you're a foreign national, you apply to it. It's a correspondence school and you get to move to the United States. They shut that down. Then he claimed to have gotten a PhD from a school called Charisma University that didn't open until 2011. Mind you, Apollos didn't open until 2004. Now he's saying he has one from Charisma from 2000. That school opened in 2011 and the program didn't even exist. So it's like, why are y'all letting this man lie? Then he was involved in a lawsuit. In the lawsuit, his attorney filed some text messages. He was claiming he was being harassed. His lawyer filed text messages that reflect that something fishy was going on with the money at DRMM. So I took it a step further and started investigating the contractors that had been paid over $100,000 and found out they were relatives and friends. And then there were places, they were like appliance stores. You're claiming you spent $250,000 at a used appliance store? Like, come on. And I forwarded all this information to HUD. During the course of that, I found out he was being investigated by the FBI, allegedly, wink, wink. So it's like, nobody is looking. And I've been going at the state level, like, we need some oversight because people are complaining about the money that Donald Trump is cutting. But part of the reason he's cutting that money is because he knows if you put it in the right place, you have enough money right now.
That's interesting because he was on after this young lady. And Detroit Black and White viewers, you all can come on the show and you can join us and talk. But I don't know if you saw it with this young lady talked about how Detroit Rescue Mission, they showed the outside of it and how, it was unsafe. He came on. He came on after she revealed, once I talked to the news, they kicked me out of Detroit.
Yeah.
He came on and said, oh, well, no, she can stay here. We just have a different place for her to stay. But my question is, if we're talking about, especially, it's really cold, that's when they start talking about people that are unhoused. When it's extremely hot, that's when they talk about people that are unhoused. But guess what? It's 365 for people that are unhoused. So it should not just be a topic of conversation when it's, inclement weather. The bottom line is, if you have these nonprofit organizations that are supposed to be helping people in the community, then do that. You have enough money to do that, to meet the needs of these people, and you're not doing that. And you're not doing it because guess what? You don't have any oversight. No oversight at all. And that has been going on for a very long time. So I don't think that a person like that expect for us to have these kind of conversations.
Right.
Okay. They don't expect for us, they expect for it to just go right up under the rug, just like when he came on television. But they had to be about 3 weeks ago. I saw him on television.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah.
So those of you that are just tuning in, we have T. Brown, a contributor to the show. We're talking about homelessness, and we're talking about, I guess, potential fraud and where the money's going in the process. And we enjoy the conversation. I wanted to comment on Dr. Frida Barnett Braddock, who's a first-time viewer. Thank you, Dr. Braddock, for joining us tonight. This is a show where your voice matters, Doctor. That's the way we look at it. Everybody's voice matters, and we want everybody's voice to matter. So thank you for joining us, and you're welcome anytime to hit that QR code and join us live. Bridget's having a little problem with her. We care about our friends out there. We talked about a little earlier. Bridget's having a little problem with her internet. Jan's talking about President CEO Dr. Chad Audie received a total compensation of $232.83. That's a lot.
And here's the problem. You have and there's a woman, Tasha Gray. She is head of the lead organization. She works over at Hand. She has more education than he does, and nobody would even dream of paying her $230,000. And it's not even just that. He has employees working for him that are not making $230,000, and they're doing more work than him. And the other thing I want to point out, that Gratiot shelter where that young lady was put out, I don't know if you all recall, that used to be the St. James Nursing Home.
Yeah,
Guess why it was shut down?
Nursing home. I used to go there when I used to. Then I'm not doing it right now, but prior to August, I would do work for the Wayne County Probate Court.
Right.
So there was petitions filed for people to have guardians. I would have to, I would go out and actually go. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, that raggedy place.
Yes, and it was closed down because of the conditions there.
The conditions were horrible. I could not believe that they had. I went back and complained that people should not stay there when it was a nursing home.
Exactly.
You could walk in that front door and you could smell it. The elevators wasn't working. It was terrible, but it's quite a few. You talk about oversight of that. There needs to be oversight over some of these nursing homes too.
Absolutely.
Because you got quite a few places that are inhabitable. And these are people that are very vulnerable. If you're talking about unhoused or those that are in nursing facilities, okay, that's a vulnerable population. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, right? And they deserve to live in conditions that are habitable, but that hasn't happened. And then you always wonder, these people who own these places, or Dr. Chad or whatever his name is, over Detroit Rescue Missions and these shelters, and people who own these, now I'm going into another era, people who own these nursing homes, where's the real oversight there? It's a doggone shame.
And Tamari Kemet says 100,000 Detroit homes are illegally foreclosed, and some are basically in a land bank. These are homeless families and people on the streets today, undoubtedly. So we talk about an action and a reaction, right? You're putting people out on the streets without a solution. Thank you, Tamari. Hello, Angela Beatty. Sorry, Angela. Mr. 1213 is the director position of the Detroit Rescue Mission an appointed position. That I don't know, Mr.
No, he has a board. There's a board there. And what's shocking is if you go to their website, you can see some of the people on the board, and some of them are former city council people. And
how do they get on a Detroit Rescue? It is probably some kind of an appointment to get there, right? I mean,
well, I imagine, with a nonprofit board, all you have to do is get a bunch of people that want to rubber stamp stuff. So if we already got rubber stampers, that's the next person we invite to the board. And there were accusations. There's a lawsuit that was filed by one of his former contractors that in the lawsuit, he's saying, like in the text messages filed by Dr. Audie, and I'm using air quotes you can't see. In the text message, he's saying they are using the checks, including the board members. They're paying contractors with those DRMM checks for work on their houses. And again, this case, this information, and what pisses me off about it, the information is right there in the building with the HRD department. The law department is there. HRD is there. City council is there. The mayor who got on TV when Charlie LaDuff said it was bad in there and called it nonsense. Right. All of these entities are in the same building. The lawsuits against Chad Audie are in the basement. So when I fuss at city council about there's no excuse for you all not to know this because it's all here in the damn building with you, that's what I'm talking about. When I went there to dig deeper and get my facts, I literally went to the law department, caught the elevator down to the basement, sat at a public terminal, and read the lawsuit. I ended up spending $400 to bring it home because they were closing. That's how important it was to me. And I forwarded all of that to HUD. But what people don't know is when you report this stuff to HUD, they investigate it, but they don't take the stuff that you report to them. They look at it and then they start all over from scratch with their own information, which can take 3 to 4 years. I was the one that turned in the people over at Colony Arms that were stealing money from people and demanding $500. That right. Investigation took so long, I had forgot I made the complaint by the time they called me.
So have you applied to be a part of the oversight commission?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know that I was trying to get the state to start one. I don't think this is something that can be handled at a city level because the city is already taking grievances. I'm on the grievance committee. I'm hearing what these homeless men and women are saying is happening to them in the shelter. And again, it goes to the city. It becomes a complaint. People vote on whether or not they believe the person, and then it just goes nowhere. And here's the other problem. A lot of times people are making valid complaints, but because of the lack of education, the lack of experience, you want to tell me how you feel about it, but you're not giving me the facts. I felt abused and mistreated. Well, what day did you feel abused and mistreated? How many incidents occurred before that? Because people don't necessarily know how to write a proper grievance, that's why their complaints are going nowhere. Just like another fun fact, nobody knows what happens when, let's just say you are a shelter, Vanessa, and I'm a person staying in the shelter, and I stayed at your shelter, but I didn't like it. So I went over to Jim's shelter and I stayed there, but you're still using my HMIS number. Or I left your shelter and you're still using my HMIS number.
Yeah. I did a quick Google of Detroit Rescue Mission. And of course, you know, you do the Google search and you look at the reviews, you could tell the people who work there and you could tell the people who actually was there using the facility. The folks that run this facility are amazing, 5 stars. Right up under that, you have nice staff, rude and uncaring, unfriendly to people who are in need. Every day I went hungry with no job. There was no home cooked meal. So the bottom line is, again, for me, when we talk about, because they talked about the lady in Macomb County and, you know, the facility, we need to do some things so that people can come into the facility. We got to make sure that these facilities are clean, that they're safe, that the people are being treated with dignity and respect. Those are the things that we have to make sure that those things are done. If not, why are we even giving money to these nonprofits if there's no oversight?
Because nobody is stopping it. And here's the problem. Just like Reverend Fowler, and I'm going to bring her up too, even though that's Alan's homegirl. I have pictures of things that she has served over there, and Mary Sheffield got her standing up in front of the city. That lady is a damn witch, and she is doing everything to them people over there that they said she was doing. And she had an immigrant living in her basement that she treated like a fucking slave. I pointed it out to the COC. That man died in her basement, and nobody said anything about it. And part of the thing is the halo effect is very dangerous in Detroit. These people are good because Mayor Sheffield says they're good. They're good because, you know, Coleman Young Jr. thinks that they're good. That's not what makes somebody good. Like, if I was able to talk about all the stuff that I knew going on at the city level, all the pictures that I have going on at the city level, y'all would be like, what? That's why I look at these people like, your word don't mean shit to me, because you are not genuine and you are not earnest. They know that these people are being abused better than you, I, or anybody else other than the people suffering the abuse. And they don't do anything about it because nobody cares about homeless people, because there's been this narrative that homeless people look like the person with the 5-day-old beard and the stick with the bandana on the end sleeping on the sidewalk. There are working homeless people. There are women in those shelters that get up and go to work every day.
But you
Well, you know
what's
more about it than they know, T. And
right.
thank you. Thank you
What's
for
interesting about that? This is the thing that we've talked about before on this show. Poverty make a whole lot of people a lot of money. And here's an example of that. You're taking advantage of people that don't have to up your level, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that is really unfortunate. And you have people that are standing there that are,
clap it up.
You're doing an awesome job. But I bet you one thing, you're not going to stay in that shelter. You're not going to stay there and try to eat at that shelter. You're not going to have your family members staying at that shelter, wherever the shelter is located. And so if you can't be there, if you're not going to stay there, you wouldn't want your family members there. Why is it good enough for other people? Why? And why is it that you do not have oversight? If you have all this money coming in, that is ridiculous. And to me, nonprofits is really a breeding ground for a lot of fraud.
Yep.
Can we go?
When I say nonprofits, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about a Detroit rescue mission. Y'all know what?
No, it's not just them. It's not.
Y'all understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Can we go to our friends?
Yes.
Timothy's out there. Hey, Timothy. I want to know why Timothy looks so big. I go to the gym 5 times a week and I don't look like Tim. For 15 years, man. I guess because I'm an old guy and he's a young guy. But Eric Brown talks about the poverty, the profitability of poverty. Miss Sheila, what about the community housing network moving homeless people in inhabitable housing? Sad for vulnerable people. Yeah, that's unfortunate, Miss Sheila. We need, when, and T, maybe you can comment on this. When you try and solve a problem, you need to solve the problem completely, right? You can't just throw people into dumps without the ability to take care of themselves, I guess.
Right, but here's the other problem, and even with the part about the drugs, there's a documentary called No Address in America, and there are people in the nonprofit sector of homelessness that don't want people seeing that, because it talks about housing first. And the way that housing first works is, I can be a drug addict, I can be the worst of the worst, I can be at my worst. If they can house me, they'll house me. And I know you're thinking, but if you're at the worst of the worst, you're gonna get in this place and get evicted. And that's exactly what happens. And they tell me, well, you know what? You don't have to get better. We're not going to worry about you doing rehab to house you, because housing is for everybody. And that's great. But once I get in here and crack up all my money and get homeless again, I can come right back to the shelter system, but that doesn't help me. And I can just keep doing that. And what we have now is people that housing first works. The statistic shows that it works. But then there are people that says housing first doesn't work, like the president. There are even people who have been part of the homeless system. I went to a conference and there was a Black woman that said, if the organization I went through had kept letting me smoke crack and drink every day, I probably would have kept doing that. And she didn't believe in housing first. But then there was another lady that said housing first worked for her. I don't know. If it works for you, it works for you. There are functional crackheads. There are functional drug addicts. That's fine. If you can keep your kids in school and keep that roof over your head and do what you're supposed to do and use your drugs, that's fine. But when you keep returning to the homeless shelter, there needs to be an intervention.
Absolutely.
It's the process that I'm talking about. I think that's what our viewers are talking about. There's a process. You go ahead.
I want to pivot for a second, because something you hit on, T, was, let's talk about public housing. I was somewhere, I don't want to name it because I don't want, to expose anybody, but I was somewhere 2 days ago. Bridget Huff know exactly where I was. And, public housing, and I was talking to some seasoned folks, and they talked about how they're one guy's a veteran, so his rent, a portion of his rent already goes to the public housing. They get their money. He doesn't have to pay, and he just pays the difference.
Right.
He talked about for the last year, he's gone to city council. He's called everybody and anybody to come and repair some things, right? It hasn't been done. Another tenant there says, listen, my rent is paid on time every month. But guess what? I've had problems in my unit. I called for them to repair it so that they can continue to get this money from the government, right? They took a picture and sent a photo in saying that this matter had been resolved when in fact it had not. Again, these are people that are on fixed income. These are people that are getting benefits from the federal government, right? And guess what? People are taking advantage of them. We're taking your money and we're not giving you service. Poverty, 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 poverty. Guess what, people? People are getting rich off of poverty.
But here's the other thing, Vanessa. People are getting rich off of not knowing their rights and not knowing what to do. Because if people started going down there, I noticed when I ran housing projects, the people who got the best results were the people who, I've been to city council now. I've went to my management. Now I'm getting ready to go to 477 Michigan Avenue and hand it directly over to HUD because this is some bullshit. And HUD had, I don't know if they still do, but the local office downtown used to have the office of the Inspector General. They had investigators right in there.
Yep.
Thank you, Dwayla. We're getting some really positive comments to you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dwayla. Thank you, Ira Todd. If you don't know Ira, everybody knows Ira Todd.
Yes,
right?
the former policeman.
Yeah, the former police legend. Thank you, Ira, for your comments. But I want to go this. We're going to take a short break, but I want to say this before we take a break. Vanessa and I tonight, we were like a little bit unprepared. Adolph lost track of time.
You're always prepared. Speak for yourself.
I am.
I'm always prepared. I don't even know why you playing with me. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was speaking on behalf of myself. The show wasn't coming together the way it was supposed to come together. And what happened is we had a contributor, T. Brown, come on. And this is one of the most interesting shows I think we've had in quite some time. That's really where I was going.
Yes.
When I say unprepared, we expected more people to be on the show tonight. So I expected not to be on the show. But my point is, to all our viewers, to all our contributors, we appreciate and value what you have to say. And this is a great conversation. Short break. I'm going to try and make this work. So if it doesn't work, we'll come back.
You can do it, Jim. You got this. You got it.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, our Friday evening's edition. We're here with Jim Nardoni, as well as T. Brown, who decided to use that QR code and join the show this evening. Thank you so much. We want to give a shout out to everybody that has joined us in the comments. And guess what? You still have about 15, 16 minutes to join us by using that QR code. Join us on Detroit in Black and White. So, T, thank you so much. I got a question to ask you. How did you find out about Detroit in Black and White?
I have been hearing about it on Twitter, but I had never checked it out. And then I for some reason, I couldn't coordinate the date. I thought it was a nightly show. Then one night I had Twitter up. I think I was talking to like Kaylee Licklider and it said live. And I'm like, who is this? And I just clicked on it and there y'all were.
Oh,
because it came up in the notifications.
Okay, awesome. We are so happy that you found us. We're so happy that you decided to join the show. And we're very happy that you were able to share some good information with our viewers. This is what we do here on Detroit Black and White. We give information, we share information, and we are informed by our viewers. So we thank you so much for contributing to our Friday night's edition of Detroit Black and White, and you're welcome to come on at any time. I do want to pivot a bit because there was a conversation that Jim and I had yesterday, and you know, I was pretty heated the other day when we had a talk. We were talking about the protest, and somebody asked me today, did I pay attention to what was going on the protest today? Somebody from Atlanta asked me about that and talked about how there's people in Minneapolis and how cold it is out there, and they're out there protesting. You know, of course, I told them what I told you the other day, Jim, and our viewers, that listen, I'm sitting over here minding my own Black business. I'm not getting involved in that like that. But I'm going to pose a question. You have so many people out here that is so upset that ICE is doing their job, right? And this was a president who said that he ran on, listen, one of the things he talked about is, listen, we're going to get rid of these illegal immigrants. People talk about him so badly and say, hey, and I'm trust me, I'm not a fan, but I am a fan of what's right, and I'm not a fan of hypocrisy. He's a criminal. He's a convicted felon. What's the difference between him and somebody that's here illegally?
Go ahead, T. Why don't you handle that?
What is the difference? Well, here's the thing.
If they're here illegally, they're a criminal.
Because I want to comment, but I want
here's the way I look at it. I guess, you know,
people voted for him to do this very thing. And why is it that people, and the reason I'm mad about this is because I get so sick and tired of people trying to ram down my throat as a Black woman. You need to be concerned about this. Listen,
yeah.
They come and knock on my door and say, hey, we're going to see you to Africa. And I've never been to Africa. I'm a United States born citizen. Why does this have to be a concern of mine? Go ahead.
I guess, you know what, I am somewhat concerned about, and I shouldn't say somewhat, I am concerned about immigration, but I guess what bothers me most about it is, you know, now all of a sudden we care. I feel like a lot of this is performative because Latino people have been here for so long. And now I think we've kind of watered down the movement. I remember there was a discussion, I think around 2005 or 2006, about deportation. And I remember Southwest cut up undocumented people in the street. They had blocked it up. I remember we were at work and it was like breaking news. They were in the streets like protesting. And now we don't have that. I think a lot of white people have made it their cause for performative aspect. And I say that because, and I'll just use an example. There was a tenant here that got killed by a bailiff. We were knocking on doors and begging people to come out. Some people showed up. We had a good showing. However, the night that woman in Minnesota got killed, Michigan Avenue down there in front of the police station was blocked up. You couldn't get down there. People were driving from miles around to come to Detroit to protest. And I think some people are sincere, but I think a lot of that is performative so that they can make the statement and get their name out there. And another thing that I have noticed, just like I forgot what the Gaza protest, when the white guy set himself on fire. Again, there were women, Middle Eastern women out here at the forefront of that fight, barely getting on the news, barely getting their name in the paper. A white man sets himself on fire and now the movement is on fire and he is the martyr. Just like this woman, I think her getting shot was really messed up. I definitely think there was a better way to do things, but now that's all you hear. Renee Green has become the face of the movement. Again, these movements start with people of color and somehow or another they become about white folks.
Listen,
again, some of this is performative. The other part that pisses me off is when they had that debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is up there babbling and not knowing what he's saying. That was the time where these marches and those protests should have been taking place. And if anybody listened to what Donald Trump said initially, it was undocumented immigrants are illegal aliens and they are criminals. He said that. Then he came back with PR and reworded it and said, I'm only deporting criminals. He's already told you you're a criminal. He's already said he's deporting you. Why Rashida Tlaib and Gabriela Santiago Ramiro waited till the very last minute to start telling these people what their rights were and start trying to organize them? Like, somebody should have been trying to get this movement going when that happened, because at that moment we knew that there was a possibility that Donald Trump would end up being president. So it's like we are at the 11th hour and we're trying to protect people that they have already had time to identify, have identified your location. These deportations are somewhat imminent, and now they're being put at risk because they're being told on one end, if you see them coming, you better flee. But then when they're trying to flee and protect these rights that they don't have, that people have told them that they have, then everybody's standing there with a camera taking pictures. But you told these people to fight back.
Right. So I want to answer one of our viewers.
Yes, and I want to go back to that too.
Neil says, as a lawyer, Vanessa, you should care about how it's being done. I didn't say I didn't care about how it's being done. I said I'm minding my business. And what I mean by that is this. Listen, you cannot, the media has done such a wonderful job in trying to incite people, people engaged in something that really is not, that is not a concern of the community that I serve. Okay. So I said, and I think I've said it at least 3 times, I'm going to say it 4 times. I can use my talents as a lawyer to help people, as opposed to standing out on some street holding up some sign. I'm not doing it. So do I care? Yes, I'm a human being. I care. But guess what? I also care about, I'm a defense attorney. So of course I care, but I also care about the fact that, listen, the reality is this: if they are illegal, right? And you have people that are doing their job, and their job is, listen, we're going to get these illegals out of here. I can't be mad at them. Now, if you're breaking the law, if you're beating people up and you're doing all these horrible things, fine. But let's be clear here. A lot of these protesters, you know, you have a right to protest, peaceful protesting. But if you're throwing fire bombs and inciting folks, that to me is a problem. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for the people that are participating, but it's also dangerous for the people that are just trying to get by. Like the lady that we talked about the other night that was in the car with her family trying to get home. Go ahead, Jim.
I think T hit it right on the nose. I think what she said was perfect. She talked about it going sideways. And I'll just throw this out there, T, I think you made a great point. If they had focused on the most serious violators, like most police organizations, I wish Ira was here talking to us, you got to go after the bad guys first. Once you clean up that mess, then we can talk about what else you need to do as far as a strategy. It just, that's where it went sideways. And I think that's a great point. I want to talk to a couple of our viewers. If your visa's expired, then you need to renew it, or you have to go back to your country. Terry McCrimmon, Jill, when it comes to your community, then your skills will be in demand. And I appreciate what you said, Vanessa, because you didn't say you didn't care. You just said you didn't want to be involved at that level. And I appreciate that.
I think it's interesting that people can sit here or sit on television, talk on the radio, talk about these people are protesting. We need to support them, but you're not out there protesting.
Thank you. That part, Vanessa. And they always look into a Black woman to be everybody's savior.
Because if you're really concerned, guess what? You're going to put your pen down, stop typing on the computer, and you're going to go out there and join them. But you're not doing that. So don't stand there and preach to me or anybody else about what I should be doing or how I should feel. No, we're not doing that.
And Eric says, I'm a human being and I don't care. Terry McCrimmon, I'm like the Asian. I'm staying out of it. I don't buy the action going on as being performative. Renee Good is her name. Yes. Let Trump produce his birth certificate. Remember the Obama thing, Janet. Thank you, Jan. As we talked about that. I don't see ICE deporting Canadians or Europeans. Karen C. Thank you, Karen. T should be a regular participant. Great job. Ira's happy for and we're all happy that you're here today. The hypocrisy, Eric, is beyond amazing.
Yes.
It really is. It bothers me.
But
For
here,
instance, today, did you guys see the story today? Now, I don't even usually watch the news anymore. I read. But the guy with ICE, they talking about the man's coat. Are you freaking kidding me? They said the coat looks like the SS coat. Are you kidding me? And you know what he said? He said, I find this very interesting. And I'm paraphrasing. He said, when I wore the coat with the previous administration, they praised me. I've had this coat all my entire career. I've had it since 1990 something. The previous administration complimented me on my coat. Now, because and see, this is the thing. This is what I'm trying to get people to see is these people are driving this narrative to keep us
divided.
off the ball, our eye off of the ball. We're talking about illegal immigrants, okay?
And Tamari makes a great point. How are you going to break the laws coming here illegally and going to fight law enforcement because they're doing their job? Tamari, I appreciate that. Ira talks about MSHDA, and you talked about MSHDA, but you didn't describe exactly what MSHDA was. Well, we got Ira Todd who's saying the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, MSHDA, investigates fraud, waste, and abuse in state-administered housing programs, including rental assistance and other housing-related benefits. MSHDA has a dedicated audit, compliance, and fraud investigation division. I wish Ira was here because I don't know if you guys saw the 2 police chiefs up in Minnesota that are being dragged into it. You're talking about the situation where a St. Paul chief and another suburban chief, Brooklyn Hills or Brooklyn Heights or whatever, had one of their employees harassed by ICE, all right? Allegedly had one of their employees harassed by ICE, and they went before the press. So Ira knows this. Anybody that's been in government, even, your field, T, what you've done, if your police officer screws up, the chief's calling the neighbor chief. He's not calling the press and having a big deal, right? The chief of Detroit, if one of his guys goes into Dearborn Heights and gets in a bad situation and nobody knows who's at fault, those chiefs are talking to each other. They're not going to the Detroit News and saying, hey, this happened in Dearborn Heights or the FBI. And I'm sure Ira would tell you, I had incidents when I was a police chief with federal officers, with officers from other departments. There's always conflict, right? And usually that's handled behind the scenes. No police chief wants someone to be on TV talking about what he did wrong before you talk to that. It doesn't usually work that way. So my question is,
I think they need to do, especially in Detroit, and I think they're getting better with that. But the Detroit police, and you can tell when stuff like this happens, you can always tell who didn't pay attention in science and social studies, because having this big discussion about, well, Detroit police, we want to make sure that you keep the feds out, and we want to make sure that you're not working with the feds, and we want to make sure. I knew that, but I really learned that lesson when I made a complaint to HUD, and I said, well, the officer Big Country over at the 5th Precinct is doing an amazing job on the investigation here, so we really don't need y'all. That woman from HUD standing in my office with that gun on her side said, we're not asking. We need those records back because we're taking over this investigation. So it's not like they can tell the feds, like, look, we got it under control and y'all just go. If this was something small, that would be one thing. But for something like immigration, that's not how that works.
But my point isn't that. My point is Detroit's not telling ICE you can't. ICE has been in Detroit since there's been an ICE, and they work well with the DPD. They work with DEA. They work with all these organizations. They work with the FBI, and I'm sure Ira's worked on many investigations with people from the FBI. You usually know who you need to talk to, and it's not the press when something goes south.
Right. I want to respond to Janet. She said ICE has attacked American citizens who did not provoke them. That is a problem, Janet. That's an example of what I'm talking about. If you're doing your job and you're not performing your job the way that you're supposed to, that's a problem for me as an American citizen. Okay, but I will also say you do understand that when you have protests and you're standing there and you're involved in a protest, there's some things that's going to happen. People, emotions are running high. Somebody's going to act a fool. It's really unfortunate, but that's the way things go. But if you, as an American citizen, if I'm walking down the street and I'm attacked by ICE and I'm minding my own doggone business, or somebody I know like you, Jim, or you, T, or even you, Janet, that is when I'm going to get involved. But if you're talking about protesters that may be provocateurs, okay, because people are pissed that ICE is there in Minneapolis. They are furious, okay? They are furious. That's why it was so many of them out there today, as cold as it is. When you're mad, all rationale is gone.
But you know what I do? I now see, Vanessa, I believe in a protest. If you want to protest, and you got to get out there and you protest. But I also believe, as a person who does protest, I have to take whatever comes with that. And I know how I have to know how far I'm going to go. And there are people that will tell you, and Bob Day, Tristan Taylor will tell you, you got to know your limit. If you know you're going to stand out here and yell with a sign, that's fine. If you know you can take it a step further, that's fine too. But don't go out here trying to perform like you ready to go to jail. And then when they put the handcuffs on you, now all of a sudden it was his fault and it was their fault and I'm the victim, and you can't do that.
Yeah, I was talking to Tracy Huff earlier today, and I talked about this. I said, when the Black Panthers was involved, guess what? They stood on business and they knew, listen, this is the chance I'm going to take. So my thing is, you can't stand there and cry like a GD baby when you know that, look, this comes with the territory.
And just like Miss Sheridan, I don't think it's performative.
Don't get involved. If you don't want the smoke, don't get involved. I don't have a problem with anybody protesting. I shared a story about how I went out to a protest and I took my kids, and my ex-husband cussed me out, rightfully so, because things could have gone really, really crazy. But the bottom line is this: if that's what you sign up to do, you do know the other things come with it.
And that's what I say about performative.
Feel bad because you made that decision.
And that's what I talk about with being performative. You go out here to make a name for yourself and get in some pictures, and now the police got their foot on your neck and you on your way to jail, and it's a travesty and it's all these other things. And that performativeness is how people who are supposed to be protesting and telling the story become the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry talks about other countries send you back. Try and go into Canada. Try and come to this country from Canada. If you were convicted of, trafficking narcotics in Canada or wherever, there are rules, and Terry points that out. We have to leave the show tonight. We appreciate your honesty. We appreciate your no filter, T. That's what we want from everybody. Nothing gets resolved with filters. Things get resolved without filters. And you brought it tonight, and all our other friends out here brought it tonight too, but it's time to end the show so people can go home. Go ahead, Vanessa. I'm sorry.
So listen, Jill, we love you. You are family. The one thing about Detroit Black and White, our show, we don't all agree. The co-hosts, we don't agree, but we all love each other and we respect each other. And we love the fact that you give us a different perspective. Join us again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Bring the heat. Jim and I will be here in the morning. I think Alan will be back tomorrow. Adolph will not be here tomorrow morning, but we will be here. Detroit Black and White. Stay warm.
And I wouldn't let T go, so she knows I kept her up there. Thanks for staying with us.
Yeah.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
I'm trying here. Give me just 1 second.